So let's talk a little bit more about number one. So although all living things are made of cells, organisms may be unicellular, meaning they're composed of one cell. And there's a little picture here, this one little tiny cell. And they may also be multicellular, which means that they are composed of many cells that may organize into tissues, and then those tissues form organs, and then those organs work together to work together and interact to create organ systems. And this little guy right here is a perfect example of a multicellular organism. Number two, so cells are the most basic unit of life. And there are two types of cells that we'll be talking about. Well, there's two types in general, but we're also going to talk about them. Okay, so the first type are prokaryotic cells. And this is an example of a prokaryotic cell, which is basically a bacteria. And just really quickly, I want to make sure that you know this is scaled horribly. So this prokaryotic cell is probably going to be about the size of this mitochondria right here. So eukaryotic cells are much, much, much bigger than prokaryotic cells. So just pretend like this picture is super small. Okay, and then like I just said, eukaryotic cells are the ones that we are made out of, and many eukaryotic cells build eukaryotic organisms. So this isn't in your notes, so just wanted to hammer home what exactly it is that we're talking about right now, because you're probably looking at me and about these slides like, what the heck, it's prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, what does that mean? So let me show you. So prokaryotic cells make up the prokaryotes. Okay, and then these are essentially just bacteria. So here's an example. I think this is the cocci bacteria, so they're circular shaped. And then these are the bacilli bacteria, so they're kind of rod shaped. And these are using microscopes. I think they might be electron microscopes because they're so small. And then this is an example of spiral shaped bacteria. And yeah, and this is the guy coughing because bacteria can make us sick. Both bacteria and viruses can, but bacteria is prokaryotic. Viruses we'll get into that later on. They are not considered alive, so they're not in these slides. Okay, and then eukaryotic cells. So prokaryotic cells are bacteria, and eukaryotic cells make up the eukaryotes. Who are the eukaryotes, you ask? I'll tell you. This includes plants, animals, fungi, and protists. So these kittens, they're eukaryotes, made up of eukaryotic cells. This baboon, creepy monkey looking thing, some kind of primate, is a eukaryote. This dolphin, eukaryote. This butterfly, a eukaryote. Oh, these ferns are plants. This is an example, it's a mushroom, so it's a fungus. If you've ever seen the mushrooms that grow in grass and you think it's like super fun to like kick them, so those are the fungi. They are also eukaryotic cells. And then this is an example of a protist. So this is what they look like under microscopes. They are very, very, very tiny eukaryotic cells. So cell theory, more on cells are the most basic unit of life. So let's look in detail at the two types, so prokaryotic, eukaryotic. Prokaryotic cells do not have a nucleus. So this is different from what we talked about in Unit 1, the nucleus of an atom. So there's the nucleus in chemistry in an atom, the most basic, smallest unit, the smallest piece in chemistry. And then there is the most basic unit of life, and those are cells. And so we're talking about nuclei in the cell, not in an atom. Okay, so prokaryotic bacteria, they do not have a nucleus, whereas eukaryotic cells, our cells, do. Okay, prokaryotic cells do not have membrane-bound organelles. Just bear with me, we're just getting through this chart. And eukaryotic cells do. So that just basically means that all of the little workers, all the little pieces that make up our cells are bound to a membrane. Okay, that's just all that means. And so prokaryotic cells, when they divide, remember how I mentioned mitosis a little earlier, prokaryotic cells divide by binary fission. And eukaryotic cells divide by mitosis. Okay. Prokaryotic cells are unicellular. Eukaryotic cells are uni or multicellular. And really use your knowledge of prefixes and suffixes whenever we're looking at all these words that kind of can seem overwhelming at times. So uni means one, unicycle. If someone was riding a unicycle, they'd be on a bike with one wheel. And eukaryotic cells can be uni, one, or multi, many cellular. Prokaryotic cells, they have cell walls, so on the outside, and they are made out of peptidoglycan, okay? And that's just a type of sugar that just, don't worry about that too much, okay? And then eukaryotic cells only have cell walls if they are fungi or plants, and they are made up of chitin, that is a type of carbohydrate, or cellulose. And if you remember, some of you, I told you about how cellulose is not able to be broken down by the human body. Our gut cannot break it down. However, cows actually can. Cows eat grass, and that is composed of cellulose. And the reason cows can do this actually is because they have bacteria inside of their gut that can break down cellulose. So the bacteria in the gut of a cow can break down that grass, that cellulose, and then in turn, that broken down cellulose can be then utilized by cows. So it's not because cows have a different makeup that allows them to break down something that we can't. It just they just have bacteria in their gut that does it for them. Okay. And then an example of organisms with this type of cell are bacteria for prokaryotes. In animals, plants, fungi, and protists.